So I work with a lot of children and teenagers at a tutoring center, and I find they're the most open-minded people. They can think outside of our regimented box. Now, later this year, I'll be old enough to run for the President of the United States, but I think that's kind of backwards. I think you should be too old to run for the President, because you get fixated in the box and you can't think outside of it, right? So our last couple of presidents were way too old, right? The current one and the one before him were way too old to think outside of their regimented box, right? So I'm recording this just before Valentine's Day. So I have a girl, she's 12 years old, and she was talking about how at school they learned about pride and LGBTQ, and she asked if I knew anybody like that. I said, yeah, myself, I'm solosexual, and she doesn't even have to ask what that means. And she said, oh, we didn't learn about that at school. That's interesting. That's a new one for her, and she didn't even have to ask what that meant. Now later on, she's learning about common factors and common divisors, right? Greatest common factor, least common multiple. And I'm telling her about how 2 years ago I went to view Jupiter and Saturn coming into conjunction. And so I asked her to think about how often that would happen, right? Jupiter goes around the sun every 12 years, Saturn every 20. And what she saw, she was like, oh no, I'll never see one in my lifetime. And we calculated it would be every 20 years. So she's got quite a few more she can see, right? And then I went on to discuss that sometimes you can get them to not only line up, but be ahead of one another in an occultation. And the next time Venus will pass in front of the sun will be 2117. But Earth will also pass in front of the sun from the perspective of Mars in 2084. And I boasted about how in 2084 I want to travel to Mars to see Earth going in front of the sun. I'll be 97 years old. And how I want to see the transit of Venus in 2117. I'll be 130 years old. And a lot of people will think that nobody could travel to Mars when they're 97 years old. Nobody's going to live to be 130. But she keeps an open mind. Right? Good luck explaining to somebody that they need to invest like they're going to live to be 100 because they just might, right? It's not even because they might underestimate how much they might. They literally might live to be 100. And good luck explaining to somebody. A lot of people think that old age is like a liability, right? If I live to be 110, I could run out of money. The reality is, if I live to be 110, I'll be healthy for 80 years, right? Good luck trying to explain to anybody that, right? But children are just much more open-minded, right? She can see herself. I think she'll be in her 90s when she views the transit of Venus, and she could already. She was naive and thought you could see that anywhere, right? Turns out you have to travel as well. And she has family in South Korea, and she's already thinking about that trip, right? And good luck getting anybody my age to be open-minded into seeing that, right? Good luck telling somebody you're solosexual. Good luck going out as a solosexual on Valentine's Day, right? Anyway, don't lose your open-mindedness as you age.